Well, wasn't that interesting? Here we are, night one, day one of the 2024 NFL draft, and it is in the books. And there are, as there always are, winners and there are losers. Now, it's easy to figure out who the winners are, and we're going to talk about that tonight. The obvious winner in this entire draft, I'm going to tell you right now, is the Atlanta Falcons. They got my QB2 or QB1, Michael Penix Jr. out of the University of Washington with the 8th overall pick. And the way that you know that it was a great pick is all of the draft experts who don't know their ass from a hole in the ground are telling you it was a terrible pick. That's how you know it's the best pick of the night. And we're going to discuss that. We're also going to discuss something else that's really, really important to figure out. Who is the biggest loser in tonight's 2024 NFL draft first round? Well, the answer to that is also easy. It's the Seattle Seahawks. All right, welcome back. Thanks for being here. I was gonna put this off till tomorrow before the second round, but it just can't wait. There's too many things to be said. There's too many issues. There's too many problems. There's too many bad things that happened if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan tonight. So we're just gonna have to deal with it because I'm about 3 Dos Equis Ambers into the evening already, and frankly, I want to pound some more and forget that this night ever happened. Well, if you had any doubt at all, that it was John Schneider and not necessarily Pete Carroll who was behind the fucking clown show that has been the Seattle Seahawks front office for the last 10 years at a minimum, that was rectified tonight because now you know John Schneider was as much a part of it as Pete Carroll. And I'm just going to tell you right off the top, there is nothing that is going to change in Seattle with the Seattle Seahawks until this guy is gone, until we have a completely new organization come in, a completely new GM with a completely different, modernized perspective on what works in the NFL and what doesn't. Nothing is going to change. And tonight is absolutely categoric proof of that. So let's get into it. What happened tonight? Well, the first round of the NFL draft is now in the books. And gosh, it was just painful to go through because you kind of knew what was going to happen and you knew it wasn't going to be good for us like it never is. The Seahawks, of course, were very limited because they only have one pick in the first 80 picks in this draft. Only one. That's where the meat of the draft is because they traded away their second round pick to get a below average player named Leonard Williams, who didn't play up to expectations, did not play up to his pedigree, and absolutely stinks. Another way you can tell that this evening is a complete disaster if you're a Seahawks fan is you look at the guys who think it's great, Dan Veens and Seahawks retard Nelson and Brian Numskull. These guys are just over the moon. And even Rob Staten, who's normally smarter than this, is defending this pick of Byron Murphy, a defensive tackle with the 16th pick. And Rob will figure it out. Rob is the only guy out there who's smart enough to really figure it out, and he will. And we'll move on from that and forgive him for his trespasses in this particular case. All right, the draft started off as expected. Caleb Williams went number 1 to the Chicago Bears. Jaden Daniels went number 2 to the Washington Redskins. Two quarterbacks right off the bat. The New England Patriots apparently had trade offers, but they wanted so much that nobody's willing trade up. The Vikings said, "Okay, look, we're going to play chicken with you and we're not going to offer you what you want for the third overall pick." So they stuck and they picked and they took Drake May, the quarterback from North Carolina. I think May is most likely the biggest bust of the quarterback class in 2024. This was a terrific quarterback class. And by the way, all the people who are in my Twitter feed, up in my face, arguing with me, which is fine. That's what Twitter is for arguing. are trying to, they're going to find out that these guys that think that they're experts are not experts. And all last year, when I kept saying we have to trade up to number one, we have to trade up to number one, we have the juice, we have the picks, we have to go get CJ Stroud, we have to go get CJ Stroud. I said it over and over and over again. Everybody said, "Oh, well, it's a better class next year anyway." Well, it doesn't matter if you have the guy right in front of you that's a generational player like CJ Stroud is, and you have 2 first-round picks, 5 and 20, and other picks you can deal, you go get him. Well, they didn't go get him because Pete and John are fucking idiots, as they proved tonight. And so we're stuck waiting for the 2024 quarterback class. But meantime, the ground beneath their feet has shifted. And everybody, and Rob, I'm speaking to you because I love you, man. No homo. I'm speaking to you because I tried to I am the only one in the Seahawks Twitterverse, YouTubeverse, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not much of a player. I just started this channel about a month ago, 2 months ago. I'm the only one who told you teams are not going to wait. If you think you look at Michael Penix and you say to yourself, I think he's a late first, early second round pick, so I'm going to stick to my board and I'm going to wait and take him there. It's not going to happen because as we saw last year with quarterbacks going 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 4 or 1 and 2 and 4, whatever it was, and Will Levis going first pick in the second round, what we saw is teams are realizing that in 2024, what it takes to win a Super Bowl is you have to have an elite quarterback. So if you see a guy that has an elite trait, an elite arm, elite game management skills, elite recognition, elite running ability, scrambling ability, you have to go fucking get him. And if you sit back and say, well, it's not a good value at that pick, like some people are arguing tonight, and Rob, I'm not picking on you because I think you're brilliant for most of the time. There wasn't a quarterback there to take at 16. Yes, there was, and we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. In fact, Rob is the one who convinced me that Spencer Rattler is worth taking at 16. So as the draft evolved, what became very obvious is everybody understands that the way that you win in 2024 is with offense, specifically with a great quarterback. It's not with defense. John Schneider, this is not 2010. Defense and running games do not win Super Bowls. Great offenses and great quarterbacks win Super Bowls. I don't like the rules, the way they're set up, but that is the reality. And until the Seahawks engage in the game, start playing chess the way everybody else is playing it in this league now, we have zero chance of getting back to another Super Bowl. Zero, much less winning one. So Drake May goes to the Patriots. Why? Because they're desperate. Because they have to have a quarterback. And they thought May was the best. I think May is slow. I think he's clumsy. I think his release is shit. And I don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. Let's wait and see if I'm proven wrong on that. The Cardinals, they were rumored to be trading out. Nope, they didn't trade because they didn't need any more picks. They have 7 picks in the first 104. They are going to kill this draft. They took Marvin Harrison Jr. The number one need was wide receiver. They took the best one on the board. Chargers then surprised everybody a little bit because people thought that a receiver was going to go there. And it logically made a lot of sense because they really don't have any on their roster. But as Jim Harbaugh said tonight in a very Harbaugh-ish thing, he said, I consider offensive tackles to be weapons. So he took Joe Alt, the best left tackle in his draft, because he needed one. Not going to argue with that. The Giants were thought to be a possible destination for J.J. McCarthy, who was universally regarded as the 4th best quarterback in this draft. In fact, he's 7th. He's the 7th best quarterback in this draft. Well, yeah, 7th best quarterback in this draft, probably. But the Giants didn't take a quarterback. They went with Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver from LSU. Then the Tennessee Titans, who were expected to take Joe Alt, then everybody had been mocking him there. Well, they went with the next best left tackle in the NFL, J.C. Latham. In the NFL draft, J.C. Latham from Alabama. Boom. Filled a need, left tackle, right tackle, whatever. And then the shock of the draft. Not to me, because I understand how fucking good Michael Penix Jr. is, because I've watched him throw the football live with my own eyes at Allegiant Stadium here in Las Vegas. And he is a phenomenal talent. RG3 told you last week what a phenomenal talent this guy is. I had him as my QB2. Probably should have made him my QB1 because I think he's that good. The Atlanta Falcons took him. The Atlanta Falcons, who just spent $90 million guaranteed, 160 over 4 years for Kirk Cousins. 90 million guaranteed. They took Michael Penix Jr. Why? Because he was probably the number one player on their board, and they were right to put him there. Because Caleb Williams' ceiling is Cam Newton. What was Cam Newton? A guy who put up a lot of great numbers, scored a lot of touchdowns, never won anything because he's not a winner. Neither is Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is going to be a me guy. He's not going to be a Super Bowl champion. That's what you look for in your quarterback. That's what Russell Wilson had. The first moment I really watched Russell Wilson play, preseason game 3 in 2012 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Right then, I knew we were going to win. I thought more than one Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. I knew we were going to win the Super Bowl because you could see the leadership. You could see the competitive nature. You could see everything that's necessary to win Super Bowls in what they used to call intangibles and the amazing physical talent. But thanks to Pete Carroll, we only won 1 instead of 2 or 4. But that's water under the bridge. So the Falcons took him because he was the best player available. Didn't matter. He's much younger than Kirk Cousins. Now, the report is that Kirk Cousins is very pissed off about this. Well, okay, I'm sorry if I'm the GM. I'm just saying, hey, Kirk, I get it. You're the starter until we can trade you. Sorry. Michael Penix Jr. is NFL ready. He will be playing by the 4th or 5th. The first time, 4th or 5th or 6th week, the first time Kirk Cousins gets a nick, he's going to be off the field for the Falcons and he's never coming back. So I expect the Falcons, if they possibly can, to trade him at some point. Maybe they'll wait till the end of the year. I don't know. Depends on their cap situation, which I don't want to go into right now. But people are saying the Falcons are crazy. First of all, Penix isn't that good. He's overdrafted. They overvalued the quarterbacks. No, they didn't, because there is nothing more important to winning a Super Bowl in the NFL in 2024 than having a great quarterback, having a great player who can throw the ball the way Michael Penix Jr. can hurl it. Nothing is more important. So they didn't overvalue him. Me personally, if I'm the Chicago Bears, Penix is the first overall pick in this draft, probably today. So people are saying, well, you can't have that much money invested at the quarterback position. This is the NFL. It's 2024. You literally cannot have too much money invested in the quarterback position. You literally can't. So I think the Falcons have a great shot at winning a Super Bowl in the next 5 years. Now that they've done this, good for them. You won the night. Chicago Bears had a great night. They got Caleb Williams, who's pretty good. Probably my QB2. Not as good as Penix in terms of intangibles and character. But they got Rome Odunze, the wide receiver from the University of Washington. Great for you, Doug. The Vikings, meanwhile, decided, hey, you know what? We're not going to wait. At 11, we're going to jump up with the Jets, and we're going to take our quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. This is why you can't have nice things, Vikings fans. This is why. J.J. McCarthy is shit, okay? He's probably actually – Drake May is better than J.J. McCarthy, but J.J. McCarthy, I mean, this guy averaged 149 yards passing, I think, this season. He's not a great quarterback. He's not a great passer of the ball. He runs okay. He's got a lot of strong intangibles, but his physical talents are not much. Is he Christian Ponder 2.0? No, he's better than that, but he's not. I don't think he's going to end up being good enough. So my top 2 bust potentials in terms of the quarterbacks in this draft are McCarthy and May. Jim Harbaugh won a national championship by not letting JJ McCarthy throw the ball. He had a chance to take his quarterback today at number 5 and trade Justin Herbert for a king's ransom. He didn't do that. That should tell you all you need to know about JJ McCarthy. Next come down the New York Jets. A lot of people thought they're going to take Brock Bowers, the tight end. Well, that would have made a lot of sense. Get another weapon for Aaron Rodgers, but also protecting Aaron Rodgers is just as important. They took Olu Fashanu, the left tackle from Penn State. Good pick, solid pick. Way to go, Jets. The Denver Broncos then shocked everybody by doing the completely obvious thing that they were going to do. They took Bo Nix, the guy who fits their shitty 2009 Sean Payton, throw it in the middle, 15 yards downfield offense. Nix fits it perfectly. I'll tell you something about Bo Nix. I also saw him playing that game against Michael Penix, and I came away saying both of these guys are first-round picks. A lot of folks don't agree with me. Rob had him as a third-round pick. He's not a third-round pick. He's a first-round pick. You know why? Because the Denver Broncos took him. Now, all these teams took quarterbacks. Why did that 5 quarterbacks, 6 in the first 12 picks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks in the first 7. Yeah, in the first 12 picks. These quarterbacks are not overvalued. These teams simply recognize the value of the quarterback position. The Seattle Seahawks apparently do not. Because what happened next is that Brock Bowers went to the Raiders. Good pick for them. They didn't want to take the next quarterback on the list. The Raiders also, I'd heard from some radio people that they liked their quarterbacks. They're not they didn't want to take a quarterback in the first round. They wanted to take a talented player. They got Brock Bowers, probably the number 3 overall player in this draft. They got him at 13. The Saints came back and took Talise Fuaga, excellent offensive tackle, filled a need. The Colts were talking about moving up to get an edge guy. Well, they just sat at 15 and got Laiatu Latu from UCLA. Injury concerns, but hey, the guy is the best pass rusher in this draft. So then it comes to the Seattle Seahawks. And of course, just like clockwork, like they always do, the networks went to a commercial when the Seahawks were on a clock. So there were multiple things the Seahawks could have done here. All of the Seahawks Twitter sphere, YouTube sphere. Oh man, if that happens, I want Jared Verse. Oh man, if that happens, I want Byron Murphy. Oh man, if that happens, I want Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean. Shit. Didn't even go in the first round. You know why? Because he sucks. Because he's not a first round pick. Okay. Oh man, Troy Fautanu. Oh yeah. Or Talise Fuaga. Well, Fuaga's gone. So now you're stuck. So the Seahawks are sitting here, and according to recent reports, they had 4 good offers to trade back. And they didn't do it. They stayed at 16 because they were so enamored with Byron Murphy. Now, the whole time, I'm sitting there praying that John Schneider is not as stupid as I think he is. Well, I was wrong. He is as stupid as I think he is. Because he took a defensive tackle. I don't care how good Byron Murphy is in scouts' eyes. I don't care how many of these amateur scouts are out there. Oh, he's such a great player. In order for him to be a difference maker on the Seattle Seahawks, he has to be at least 25% better than Jarran Reed or Leonard Hankins or Leonard Williams or Draymond Jones. At least 25% better than any of those guys to make a difference, to help the Seahawks win even one game that they would not have, that they lost last year by comparison. Oh, our run defense was terrible. We had to do this. No, we didn't. The run defense, guess what? Isn't going to be great next year. It's going to be better, but it's not going to be great. This guy is not the next Aaron Donald. Okay, this is not the Rams getting Aaron Donald at 14. This is a run of the mill mid first round defensive tackle position player. We have now taken 20 straight position players since we traded Russell Wilson on March 8th, 2022, a day which will live in infamy, when we traded away our last hope to go to a Super Bowl. Which, would have been fine if they'd actually executed the last two drafts properly, but they didn't. So, to make room for this guy and to get under the cap, they're going to have to cut maybe Reed and Draymond Jones, or they're going to have to restructure contracts. I don't know what they're going to do, but I can't see him being in a rotation with those other three guys. They will not have four of these 34 defensive tackle types, which is kind of what Murphy is. I don't see it happening. Do you think, honestly, that Byron Murphy is going to be a better player next year than Jarran Reed? No, probably not. Might be as good, probably not better. Leonard Williams? No, I don't think Leonard Williams is very good at all. He played like shit last year when we got him. Now, I have said for years, for about 3 years, that this defense is less than the sum of its parts. The problem with the Seahawks defense the last 3-4 years has been Pete Carroll. Clint Hurt to a certain extent, and whoever the DC was before him, Ken Norton. But Pete Carroll is the problem. Mike Macdonald's coaching alone will probably bring us from 29th in overall defense to like 20th. Maybe even 15th could be the ceiling, because we have some good players on this team on defense. The schemes were just straight out of 2009, 2010. They just weren't good schemes. They didn't fit the players that the Seahawks have. So the answer to the issue is, we needed the defensive tackle. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Linebacker, offensive guard, offensive tackle were bigger needs. But John already told us, I don't take offensive guards high, and I don't pay them a lot of money. Well, I'm going to tell you, I think that Troy Fautanu with Pittsburgh is going to be a bigger difference maker next year than Byron Murphy. But we'll see. I hope Byron Murphy's a great player. I don't think he's a great player. I think he's going to be another good player. We have lots of good players on this defense. What they should have done is take Spencer Rattler. There were 7 quarterbacks in this draft who have a higher ceiling than Geno Smith. Caleb Williams, we weren't going to get him. Jaden Daniels, weren't going to get him. Drake May. Look, I don't think he's good, but I'm not a scout. And if scouts think he has, if he reaches the upside that scouts think he has, then he will be better than Geno is. Michael Penix, I think day one, Michael Penix is better than Geno. JJ McCarthy, same thing as Drake May. I don't think he's that good, but scouts do. Bo Nix, higher ceiling than Geno Smith. And what we have to do to win a Super Bowl is get better at the quarterback position. First and foremost, we've now gone 3 off seasons and haven't addressed the quarterback position. So what would I do? Well, if I had 4 good offers, to trade back, I'd trade back. I pick up a second or a third or whatever those offers were. That would be the smart thing to do. And I take Spencer Rattler. I roll the dice. Because there are lots of guys back in here that went in the rest of the round that I'm happy to have. I'm happy to have Troy Fautanu. I'm happy to have Jared Verse, Chop Robinson, Graham Barton, Tyler Guyton. I'm happy with those guys. I'm probably going to get one of them if I'm back here at 26, 27, 28. But I'm not taking them. In case Spencer Rattler goes, I am dropping back and I am taking Spencer Rattler. Why? Because he has first round talent. Who told me that? Rob Staten. Rob is now arguing that you don't stick and pick a quarterback just because you need a quarterback if he's not worth the pick. Yes, you do. Rob, yes, you do. The Broncos did. They're going to come out ahead in this draft. The Vikings did. They think they're going to come out ahead in this draft. The Bears did. Well, Williams is probably worth it. Yes, you do. You do stick and pick, or you trade down and you take a chance. Now, I also am looking at some rumors that the Raiders and the Seahawks and I think one other team were looking at moving up to get Michael Penix, but we're not able to do so. Again, if I'm the owner of the Seahawks, there's no such thing as not able to do so. What do you want? Our next 2 first-round picks and DK Metcalf and our 2025 second? Okay, here you go. That's how much I believe in Penix. But if I can't get Penix, my fallback position is Spencer Rattler. It's still my fallback position. So they could have traded back to 22, 24, 25, and they could have taken Rattler there. Instead, they stuck and took a player they actually don't really need. They would have been better off taking some of these other players. The Vikings traded up to take Dallas Turner, fill another need for them. The Bengals took Amarius Mims. Great pick for them. They need offensive line help. The Rams stayed where they were, got Jared Verse. The Steelers stayed where they were, got Troy Fautanu. The Dolphins stayed where they were, took Chop Robinson. A little bit of a surprise, but not really. He's a good football player, and he fell to them. Eagles took Quinyon Mitchell, the consensus number 1 corner in the draft. Jaguars traded back out of 17 to the 23rd pick with the Vikings and took Brian Thomas. Let's see what that trade was. Houston and Minnesota. What? No, this is not Houston. This is Jacksonville and Minnesota. Jacksonville traded 1st and 7th round selections to Minnesota in exchange for 2nd and 6th rounds. Okay, that's not what happened. I don't know what the terms of this are, but here's the offer right here that was on the table for the Seahawks. Whatever the Jaguars gave, and yeah, that's just like crazy. I don't know. Let's jump over here and see. It's not in there. Yeah, it's Houston and Minnesota. Houston traded 1st and 7th round selections to Minnesota in exchange for 2nd and 6th round selections. It's not Houston, it's Jacksonville. Okay, Jacksonville traded out of 17, but we'll go back and look at that trade. And so the Seahawks would have gotten 23, a 2nd round pick and a 6th round pick and a 2nd round pick next year. So they would have 2 2nd round picks next year. They passed that up for Byron Murphy. I'm just going to tell you right now, Byron Murphy is not going to live up to that price. So we could have had Spencer Rattler at 23 because nobody else took him. And then we could have taken an offensive lineman in the 2nd round this year and a defensive lineman in the 3rd round, or a safety or a linebacker, and we'd have 2 2nd round picks, 1st and 2 seconds next year. Now, for those of you who tell me that Spencer Rattler's not good enough to be a 1st round pick, yeah, he is. And I don't think he goes very far into the 2nd round. So that's the trade that we passed on, probably right there. So the Jags dropped back to take Brian Thomas. Terrion Arnold goes to the Lions. They traded up for that with the Cowboys. Packers took Jordan Morgan, excellent player, offensive tackle. Buccaneers took Graham Barton, kind of a surprise. I thought they'd go defense. Cardinals went to defensive end, took Darius Robinson. Kansas City Chiefs took Xavier Worthy. Cowboys took Tyler Guyton, the guy that Sirius NFL Radio, Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller had targeted for that pick for quite a while. 49ers took Ricky Pearsall. Trust me, they're trading either Ayuk or Debo tomorrow. And the Panthers traded up from 33 to 32 to take Xavier Leggetti, who had a great season catching all kinds of passes from South Carolina from Spencer Rattler, who is an NFL first round pick level quarterback. He has elite traits. He has, well, they don't have elite traits. He has a lot of first round traits. So the Seahawks should have taken him in the first round. So again, now we're going to reconstruct. It looks like the trade would have been dropped back to 23, where they could have taken Spencer Rattler and not really caught a lot of flack for it. And this is the other thing. They were covered. When Bo Nix goes 12th and JJ McCarthy goes 10th and Michael Penix goes 8th, you're free. You're not going to get criticized if you take Spencer Rattler at 16 or trade back to 23 and take him. You're not going to get criticized because those other moves were bigger, quote, reaches. And here's the reality in 2024. You have to reach to get a quarterback that's going to win you a Super Bowl. They're not just going to fall to you anymore. And Rattler is the last quarterback still left in this draft who has that kind of star quality. The rest of the guys are just shit. And that's probably who we'll end up taking if we take a quarterback at all. I can already see Schneider, oh, well, we tried to get a quarterback, but we just couldn't do it. So again, we could have had TJ Watt, but they wanted to trade back and take Malik McDowell in 2017. So really what the Seahawks did is they never really intended to take a quarterback unless it was Michael Penix at 16, which I agree with. That's fine. I'm glad they tried to trade up and get him, but when they didn't get him, they should have traded back, picked up some extra draft capital, and taken him at 23. That's what they should have done. Instead, they took a defensive tackle they don't need and who I'm not convinced is going to be any better than at least 3 guys they've already got on the roster. Reed, Draymond Jones, and Leonard Williams. What do we need another one of those guys for? They're not going to win. Byron Murphy's not going to win you one football game this year. And you might argue, well, neither is Spencer Rattler because he's probably not going to play right away. Well, maybe not, but Geno got injured last year. Geno's fading. He's getting older. Might have played this year. Might have won us a couple games, and that's not the point. The point is he's quarterback. And if you're going to win a Super Bowl, you have to have a quarterback with a high ceiling. And right now, we do not. So, where does Spencer Rattler go? At the risk of looking like an idiot tomorrow, I'm going to tell you, he doesn't get past the Raiders at 44. In fact, I expect the Raiders to trade up into the early second round to take Spencer Rattler. So the only way you can salvage this situation, if you're Seattle, is now to trade something valuable like our first round pick next year and some other picks this year to get into this range ahead of the Raiders to take Spencer Rattler. I don't even know if they like him. They should, because they're fools if they don't realize the talent that this guy has. Look at Xavier Leggetti's tape. Look at the amazing throws he catches. If that doesn't tell you that Spencer Rattler's worth taking, I don't know what will. Do I think they'll do that? No, fuck no. You know why? Because John Schneider still thinks it's 2010. He thinks the way you win a Super Bowl is with defense and a running game. You know why? Because he's an idiot. John, I'm desperate for you to prove to me tomorrow that you're not an idiot. This is exactly the same conversation. I'm going to call Sirius NFL Radio tomorrow, moving the chains with Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller. I'm going to call and I'm going to call and I'm going to call starting at noon until I can get on. And I'm going to tell them, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, we had this exact same conversation, me and Pat Kerwin. It's 2011. And I said, I don't understand what my team is doing. They need a quarterback. And they drafted this guy Carpenter, an offensive guard, an offensive tackle turned out to be a guard. And we went back and forth and back and forth. And finally, Kerwin said to me, well, what do you want your team to do? And I said, I want my team to trade up into the front part of the second round and take one of these quarterbacks. I don't care which one. I like Andy Dalton, but if they like Kaepernick or if they like, forget the other guy's name, take one of them. They did nothing. They were 7-9 in 2011. That's where we're headed this year. Geno is better than Tavares Jackson or Charlie Whitehurst. I will give him that. So he doesn't get past the Raiders at 44. And frankly, I expect the Raiders to trade up into this early round here and take Rattler. And when it's all over, John is going to go, well, we wanted a quarterback. We just couldn't get it done. You can get it done. You know how you get it done? You have the fucking will to go do it. This team does not have the will. And worse than that, what that implies is that the Seahawks do not recognize, they don't recognize what it takes to win a Super Bowl in this day and age. And they don't recognize how other teams have figured it out. Poor Mike McDonald, guess what? You're not going to get good enough players to be a difference maker here. You're unless we get a new GM who understands he has to go get a quarterback, you're not going to win a Super Bowl in Seattle. You're not going to be a hero. You're not going to be a success. You're going to be one of those 3 or 4 years and out coordinator guys who coaches and doesn't get another chance in the NFL. The Seahawks' options to save this disaster are dwindling. Now, I also like Tua too, but he's very slight and he gets injured, but he's a playmaker. If they took him in the 7th round, I wouldn't feel quite as bad as I feel right now. But none of the guys after Spencer Rattler are worth taking. None of them. They're just the typical shit quarterbacks that teams like the Redskins have been dealing with for the last 10 years. Guys like Sam Howell. And that's what this organization has sentenced the Seahawks fans to. It's 10 years at least in the quarterback wilderness until we have a season so bad that our coach and our general manager gets fired and we end up at the top of the draft and there are some good players. There aren't any next year's quarterback class is ass. Shadur Sanders, total low character pile of shit. May have some physical talent, pile of shit as a human being. Quinn Ewers, good player. Wish he'd come out this year. Not going to, probably going to be the number 1 overall pick. We're not going to be picking number 1 because our defense is going to be a lot better now that we've gotten rid of Pete Carroll and we have a lot of talented players on offense. But the issue now is, what the fuck are you doing, Seahawks? What do you even think you're doing? I heard John Schneider's favorite player is DK Metcalf. He loves DK Metcalf. Well, then why didn't you go get somebody who can get him the ball? Because you are wasting his career. You're wasting the best years of his career. There is no point in keeping DK Metcalf on this roster and paying him north of $28 million, which is now the new standard thanks to Amon-Ra St. Brown's contract, if Geno fucking Smith and Sam Howell are going to be the guys throwing you the ball. There's no point. So we'll see if the Seahawks realize that tomorrow. I don't think they do. I don't expect them to do anything. I expect them to sit on their hands and wait until 81. And I curse them. I curse them for not taking this trade. Drop from 16 to 23 with the Vikings. You got a 2nd and a 6th this year and a 2nd next year. And you can draft Spencer Rattler at 23 and solve your quarterback of the future problem. Am I guaranteeing Spencer Rattler is going to be a star? No. but he has star quality, and no other quarterback that's left in this draft does. So my grade for the Seahawks tonight is an F. They flunked, and it's the same old shit with this front office. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand what it takes to win in 2024. They're still operating out of the 2010 playbook. And this is another 8-9 or 9-8 season. Remember, we've been 9-8 the last 2 years with a lot of luck. We could have easily been 8-9 or 7-10. So I don't know what to tell you other than this will not end well unless they somehow figure a way to now overpay and go get Spencer Rattler. That's basically the only option they have left to save this team. This is now 3 straight years where they haven't invested in the quarterback position. And Sam Howell is not what I had in mind. Should have gone after Justin Fields. Then at least we'd have some hope, something to look forward to. We'd have some physical talent on the roster. All right, that's it. That is the end of my rant. God damn, it felt good to do that. But I'd like to say go Hawks, but I don't see them going anywhere. Not until they address and solve this problem. And the rest of the NFL, based on what happened tonight, appears to agree with me. And don't forget, I am the only person in the Seahawks YouTube verse that told you teams aren't going to wait anymore. Value on quarterbacks doesn't matter anymore. Bo Nix is a second or third round value. Guess what? He's going in the first round. Oh, Michael Penix was a late first value. Guess what? He's going in the top 10. And deservedly so, because he should have been rated very high. Because these teams are desperate. The problem that the Seahawks have is they're not desperate. And they should be.